In a world that never stops moving, we forget what stillness feels like. The city rushes, the screens glow, the mind races. But somewhere beneath the noise, a quiet voice is calling you back. Not to escape the world, but to awaken within it. This is not a journey to somewhere else. It's a return to your breath, your presence, your peace. Welcome to Urban Buddha. Let's begin. 1. The noise and the breath. The city never sleeps. Its heartbeat pulses through the streets, echoed in the honking of horns, the blur of neon signs, the hurried footsteps on concrete. The city never sleeps. Its heartbeat pulses through the streets, echoed in the honking of horns, the blur of neon signs, the hurried footsteps on concrete. In a world built on movement, urgency, and noise, we often forget what stillness feels like. But what if you could be still not by escaping the city, but by awakening within it? This is not the story of retreat. This is the journey of waking up right where you are. Welcome to Urban Buddha. In the heart of the city, stress becomes an old companion. We carry our burdens in briefcases and smartphones, buried beneath deadlines, traffic, and expectations. Anxiety thrives in the space between silence and sirens. And yet, amidst the noise, there is a deeper current and invitation. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving, attachment, and ignorance. But he also taught that liberation is possible. Not after retirement, not when we move to the mountains, but now, here, with this very breath. Urban Buddha is not about abandoning the world. It's about inhabiting it more consciously. It's about walking through the subway with awareness, standing in line at the cafe with compassion, answering emails without losing your soul. This is mindfulness in motion. The monks' robes are exchanged for hoodies and headphones. The forest is replaced by skylines. But the silence, the truth, the awakening, it's still available. And it begins, as it always has, with awareness. Every morning, you wake up to a glowing screen before the sun. The mind races before your feet hit the floor. But what if, before checking messages, you checked in with your breath? What if brushing your teeth became a sacred act of presence? What if your commute became a walking meditation, not an obligation? The truth is, you don't need a temple to find peace. You only need to remember that the temple is within. And every ordinary moment becomes holy when met with mindful attention. In the office, tensions rise. Deadlines loom. Conversations trigger reactions. But the teachings of the Buddha offer a pause. Right effort. Right speech. Right intention. These aren't abstract ideals, they are tools for urban survival. When you choose presence over reactivity, when you respond with patience rather than explode with anger, you're not just being nice. You're practicing liberation. You're embodying the path. The city may not slow down for you, but your mind can. With every deep breath, you interrupt the cycle. With every kind word, you break the chain of suffering. You shift not only your state of being, but the energy of the space around you. That's the quiet revolution. That's the essence of the Urban Buddha. The challenge of our generation is not escaping stress, but transforming it. Not avoiding discomfort, but meeting it with wisdom. We can't turn off the noise outside, but we can learn to listen differently. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. And when you learn to sit in stillness within the chaos, you begin to hear the Dharma in everything. The hum of a train, the rhythm of typing, the laughter of strangers, the quiet ache of your own heart. These are not distractions. These are teachers. Modern life brings modern suffering, burnout, comparison, digital overload. But the Four Noble Truths still apply. Suffering exists. It has a cause. It can end. There is a path. That path is not some ancient relic reserved for monks. It's alive. Here, now, in your inbox, your relationships, your late-night thoughts. The Eightfold Path is not a ladder to enlightenment, but a map for navigating traffic jams, misunderstandings, and existential doubt. Urban Buddha is your guide to living that path amidst parking lots and push notifications. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. You will forget. You will get overwhelmed. You will react. That's okay. Awareness is not about getting it right, it's about returning. Returning to the breath. Returning to the body. Returning to the now. Over and over, until your whole life becomes the practice. And slowly, everything changes not outside, but within. You start to hear your own inner wisdom louder than the city. You find moments of peace in crowded cafes. You offer a smile to the barista, not out of obligation, but from genuine presence. You forgive yourself for being human. That's awakening in the modern world. That's being a Buddha in the city. And as you awaken, you realize this. You're not alone. There are thousands, millions of people, just like you, seeking stillness in the noise, meaning in the madness. And together, we form a Sangha, not of monks in robes, but of ordinary people living mindfully in extraordinary times. We are the Urban Buddhas. 2. Presence in the pavement. You begin to notice the small things. The way sunlight filters through skyscrapers. The silence between subway announcements. The weight of your footsteps on the pavement. You begin to notice the small things. The way sunlight filters through skyscrapers. The silence between subway announcements. The weight of your footsteps on the pavement. This noticing is not trivial. It is the doorway to freedom. Mindfulness is not some exotic practice. It's radical presence in the mundane. It's eating your lunch without distraction. It's listening fully when someone speaks. It's feeling your anger without feeding it. It's living with your eyes open. The Buddha's wisdom wasn't designed to escape the world, but to see it clearly. And in that seeing, to end suffering. In the city, suffering wears many masks. Loneliness in a crowd. Anxiety in success. The dull ache of always chasing something more. But awareness unmasks them. You begin to realize that what you were searching for out there was never missing inside. No amount of money, achievement, or stimulation can replace the stillness that comes from knowing who you are. You are not your job. You are not your failures. You are not the curated version of yourself online. You are awareness itself. Pure, unchanging, free. And from that recognition, compassion blooms. You stop judging people so quickly, the man shouting on the corner, the coworker who snapped at you, the driver who cut you off. You see them not as enemies, but as fellow sufferers. Just like you, caught in the same web of craving and fear. This is the beginning of true compassion, not pity, but understanding. Not saving others, but seeing them clearly. And from that clarity, kindness flows. The city becomes your monastery. The sidewalks, your walking meditation. The elevator, your mindfulness bell. The traffic light, your moment to breathe. You begin to live slower, even when the world moves fast. Not inaction, but intentional action. Not withdrawal, but deep engagement without attachment. The Buddha taught the middle way, not indulgence, not denial, but balance. You apply this in your work. You do your best, but you don't tie your worth to outcomes. You apply it in relationships. You love fully, but without clinging. You apply it in ambition. You grow, but without greed. Balance becomes your compass, and it changes everything. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer chase, you choose. You no longer numb, you feel. And in feeling, you heal. Healing doesn't mean your life becomes perfect. It means you stop resisting what is. You accept the pain without dramatizing it. You allow joy without fearing it will vanish. You live with open hands, not clenched fists. And that openness invites freedom. Urban Buddha is not about escaping pain. It's about transforming your relationship to it. You learn to sit with discomfort, not as punishment, but as teacher. The tightness in your chest, an invitation to soften. The anger in your gut, a signal to inquire. The sadness in your heart, a gateway to deeper love. You stop seeing emotions as problems. You see them as passing clouds in the sky of awareness. You are the sky, not the storm. The more you practice this, the more resilient you become. Not hard, but strong. Not guarded, but grounded. You stop trying to fix everything. You start being with everything. And in that presence, things begin to shift. The city is still loud, but it no longer owns you. You carry peace with you like a quiet flame, and others feel it. Your presence becomes medicine. You don't need to preach or convert. Just by being calm in chaos, you give people permission to breathe. You become a mirror, a reminder, a silent revolution. This is the impact of one awakened person, and it ripples outward. Your relationships deepen. Your conversations shift. Your choices align. And slowly, without forcing, you begin to live a life that reflects your deepest truth. A life of meaning, not just movement. Of connection, not just communication. Of being, not just doing. Urban Buddha is not an idea, it's a practice. A way of living. A way of being. It's meditation in motion. Wisdom in action. Love in daily form. And it begins with a choice, the choice to wake up. Not someday, but now. Not in silence, but in noise. Not somewhere else, but right here. This moment. This breath. This life. The inner city stillness. You begin to see that freedom is not in the absence of challenge, but in your capacity to meet it without losing yourself. The city remains fast, unpredictable, full of contrasts. You begin to see that freedom is not in the absence of challenge, but in your capacity to meet it without losing yourself. You still have bills to pay, people to answer to, schedules to keep. But the difference now is in how you carry it all. No longer dragging the weight of resistance, but walking with the lightness of acceptance. This doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to the present moment, to reality as it is, to the sacred unfolding of things beyond your control. And from that surrender comes true power. The power to respond wisely. The power to choose peace. The power to remain whole, even when the world feels fragmented. This is the power of presence. In a crowded subway, you feel the pulse of life all around you, but you're not overwhelmed. You breathe. You ground into your body. You remember that you are not separate from those around you. Their pain is your pain. Their breath is your breath. You begin to dissolve the illusion of me and them. This is what the Buddha called anatta, non-self. You are not an island. You are the ocean. In the workplace, someone insults you. The ego flares. But you pause. You feel the heat rising, but you do not act on it. You inquire, where does this come from? What am I protecting? And slowly, the reaction melts into understanding. You see that they too are hurting, that their unkindness is rooted in fear. And just like that, you've broken the cycle. You did not add to the suffering. You became the still point. In the noise of the modern world, being the still point is a radical act. We are conditioned to react, to defend, to prove. But the awakened heart responds with space. And in that space, healing happens. The teachings are not abstract, they live through your choices. Right livelihood becomes not just what you do, but how you do it. Do you create harm or reduce it? Do you uplift or deplete? Even in industries full of competition and ego, you bring integrity. You offer your work as service, not self-validation. And in that shift, fulfillment arises not from applause, but from alignment. The practice enters your home. You speak to your partner with attention, not automation. You listen without waiting to reply. You hold space for your children's emotions without shutting them down. You cook with presence. You clean as meditation. You create a home that breathes peace, not perfection. The Buddha's path was never about escaping life. It was about fully inhabiting it. In the city, we are surrounded by distractions, temptations, stimulation. But all of it can become fuel for awakening if we remain aware. Even the smartphone can become a mindfulness bell. Before you scroll, pause. Ask, why am I reaching for this? What am I avoiding? What do I really need? This questioning is the beginning of liberation. Not from technology, but from unconsciousness. You reclaim your attention as sacred. You stop feeding the endless hunger for more. More likes, more news, more noise. And in that stopping, you begin to taste contentment. Contentment is not stagnation. It's gratitude for what is. You start to realize that joy was never in the achievement, but in the presence with what's already here. Drinking a cup of tea, watching the sky shift colors, holding the hand of someone you love. These small things become holy. You don't need a vacation to be happy. You need to be here, fully here. This is not easy. The mind will wander. The world will pull you away. But again and again, you return. Like the breath, like the tide, you return to yourself. And each return is a miracle. A quiet victory over distraction. A ray rooting into the now. And with time, the returning becomes more natural than the leaving. Stillness becomes your default. Not absence of motion, but the quiet center within all motion. This is what it means to be an urban Buddha. You are not separate from the city, you are the awareness within it. The city no longer owns your energy. You flow through it with clarity. You bless it with your presence. And in doing so, you remind others of their own light. This is how the teachings spread. Not through preaching, but through living. Not through doctrine, but through embodiment. You become a walking Dharma, a living answer to the suffering around you. And slowly, the city changes not in architecture, but in atmosphere. Because one peaceful person affects 1,000 minds, and 1,000 peaceful people can shift a culture. This is not fantasy, it is the quiet revolution already underway. And you are a part of it. 4. Emotional alchemy in modern life. You may not always feel like a Buddha. Some days, you'll forget everything. You'll rush, react, lose your temper. You'll scroll for hours, drown in distraction, feel disconnected from everything. You may not always feel like a Buddha. Some days, you'll forget everything. You'll rush, react, lose your temper. You'll scroll for hours, drown in distraction, feel disconnected from everything. But even that is part of the path. The moment you realize you've wandered, that is the return. That is awareness waking up again. And that moment is sacred. There is no failure in forgetting. There is only practice in returning. The mind is conditioned to grasp, to avoid, to protect. It's not your enemy, it's your teacher. When it races, don't suppress it. Watch it. Breathe with it. Create space around it. Like a storm cloud passing through an open sky. You are not the cloud. You are the sky. With this insight, your relationship to suffering changes. You stop asking why it's here. You begin asking what it's teaching. Every emotional wave becomes a messenger. Anger points to a boundary that needs honoring. Sadness reveals a love that mattered. Fear shows you where your trust must deepen. You stop fearing your emotions. You start listening to them. This emotional literacy becomes a gateway to deeper freedom. You realize that healing is not becoming someone new, it's remembering who you already are beneath the layers of defense and programming. Beneath the armor, you are whole. The Buddha never promised a life without pain. He promised liberation from suffering not by escaping pain, but by relating to it differently. This insight becomes your anchor. In moments of overwhelm, you return to breath. In moments of conflict, you return to compassion. In moments of doubt, you return to the present. Slowly, your nervous system rewires. You stop living in perpetual fight or flight. You begin to rest in rest itself. Even in movement, you feel still. Even in complexity, you feel clarity. And people notice. They don't always know why, but your presence calms them. Your energy invites them to slow down. You become a refuge not because you have it all together, but because you're willing to be real, vulnerable, awake. This is the power of authenticity. It doesn't perform peace. It embodies it. The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more presence. More people willing to live awake in the messiness of life. That's what you're doing. And as you walk this path, you'll find others walking too. You'll notice them in the small things, the way someone pauses before answering, the softness in their eyes, the quiet confidence in their stillness. These are your fellow travelers. The Sangha is not just in monasteries, it's on sidewalks, in cafes, on morning commutes. We are everywhere, unfolding, remembering, becoming. This journey is not linear. There will be seasons of clarity and seasons of confusion. There will be joy and grief, expansion and contraction. Don't resist the ebb and flow. The lotus blooms in muddy water. Growth is messy. Awakening is not a destination, it's a way of being with whatever arises. And sometimes what arises is uncomfortable. The city triggers old wounds. The world mirrors your insecurities. The speed of life pressures you to abandon yourself. But this is exactly why the practice matters. It's not about escaping chaos, it's about learning how to remain open-hearted within it. It's about remembering that you are the still point in a spinning world. You are the breath between notifications, the silence beneath the noise, the awareness behind the thought. And as you live from that place, everything changes not because the world becomes easier, but because you are no longer resisting it. You begin to accept reality without collapsing into it. You meet life on its terms without losing your own integrity. This is the strength of the urban Buddha. Not a monk on a mountain, but a soul awake in the subway. A heart open in the office. A breath conscious in a world gasping for air. You become a beacon not through effort, but through alignment. Not by forcing change, but by becoming it. And every choice you make from awareness plants a seed. A kind word, a deep breath, a moment of stillness. These are your offerings. These are your revolutions. And they ripple outward, seen or unseen, into a world that desperately needs more light, more groundedness, more humanity. And in this way, you fulfill your path not as an escape, but as a return to presence, a return to wholeness, A return to the truth that's been here all along, that you are already enough, that peace is already within you, and that the sacred is not somewhere else, it's right here, in this breath, in this moment, in this life. 5. Returning to yourself again and again. You begin to realize that awakening doesn't require a different life, it requires a different relationship with life. The city remains fast, unpredictable, full of contrasts. You begin to realize that awakening doesn't require a different life, it requires a different relationship with life. The city remains fast, unpredictable, full of contrasts. But you no longer demand it to be peaceful for you to be at peace. You walk among the crowds and carry silence within you. You navigate tension without absorbing it. You feel pain without letting it define you. And this internal shift becomes your compass. You start to sense when you are being pulled away from presence. When the noise gets too loud, you turn inward not to escape, but to reground. Maybe you take a mindful walk without your phone. Maybe you sit in a park and simply breathe. Maybe you close your eyes for 60 seconds between meetings and return to your body. These small acts are no longer optional. They become essential. They're not a luxury, they're your lifeline. And over time, your definition of success changes. It's no longer about achievement or accumulation. It's about alignment. Are you living in accordance with your values? Are you choosing presence over productivity when needed? Are you kind to yourself when you fall short? These are the new metrics. These are the quiet measures of a meaningful life. You become more intentional with your time, more discerning with your energy. You begin to say no, not from fear, but from clarity. No to what drains you. No to what pulls you from presence. No to the habits that numb instead of nourish. And this creates space. Space for what matters. Space for depth over speed. Connection over consumption. Stillness over stimulation. You begin to see the world differently. You see beauty in what used to annoy you. The rain on your windshield becomes a meditation. The wait in line becomes a chance to observe your breath. The stranger sitting next to you becomes a silent teacher. Everything is alive. Everything is teaching. The city becomes your classroom, not through information, but through awareness. Not through instruction, but through immersion. And you, the student of the present moment, begin to trust life again. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. This trust isn't blind, it's built through experience. Every time you face discomfort and stay open, you build trust. Every time you meet fear with compassion, you build resilience. Every time you forgive yourself, you build wholeness. And that wholeness is magnetic. Others feel it. They're drawn to your calm, your clarity, your grounded presence. Not because you're special, but because you're sincere. Because in a world of masks, authenticity shines. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to be present with the question. You don't need to be enlightened. You only need to be real. And that realness becomes a mirror for others. A reminder that they too can return to themselves. That they too can find peace in the middle of their lives, not outside of it. This is how the path spreads. Not through dogma, but through demonstration. Not through force, but through frequency. You carry the frequency of presence, and it changes rooms. It shifts conversations. It opens hearts. Even without words, you're teaching. Just by being awake, you're offering permission. This is the subtle service of the urban Buddha. To live fully, deeply, mindfully, in a world that urges you to disconnect. To soften when the world hardens. To pause when everything pushes. To listen when no one else is. To breathe when everyone else is holding theirs. This is not weakness. It is strength. Not passive surrender, but active clarity. A warrior's gentleness. A monk's courage. A human being rooted in their own enoughness. You stop running. You stop proving. You stop apologizing for who you are. And you begin to live from wholeness, from presence, from peace. And as you do, the world around you responds. Not instantly, not always obviously, but quietly, subtly. You begin to notice more synchronicity, more moments of grace, more clarity in chaos. You start trusting your intuition. You act from wisdom, not from panic. You speak from compassion, not from reactivity. You love with presence, not with attachment. And you discover that the deepest peace doesn't come from controlling life, it comes from allowing it. From surrendering not to powerlessness, but to presence. To letting life be what it is, and choosing to be awake inside it. This is the heart of the practice, and it's available in every moment. You don't need a perfect environment. You don't need more time. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to return to this moment, to this breath, to this now. And in doing so, you become free not someday, but now. Not somewhere else, but right here. Not after enlightenment, but in the simple choice to live as if you are already whole. Because you are. You always were. 6. Awakening where you are. So you walk the streets not as someone lost in thought, but as someone grounded in being. You are not separate from the world around you, you are in relationship with it. So you walk the streets not as someone lost in thought, but as someone grounded in being. You are not separate from the world around you, you are in relationship with it. You feel the pulse of life in each passing face. You sense the quiet longing in every crowded room. You no longer seek to escape reality. You embrace it as your path. The teachings are not locked away in ancient texts. They are alive in every moment you choose awareness over autopilot, kindness over defensiveness, presence over performance. The Four Noble Truths are not distant philosophies. They are daily truths. Suffering arises. You see it in traffic, in tension, in your own mind. Suffering has a cause, you recognize it in craving, in clinging, in wanting things to be different. Suffering can end, you taste this when you let go, when you breathe, when you stop fighting what is. And there is a path, the Eightfold Path, walked not in theory, but in action. Right view becomes how you see a coworker who snapped at you. Right intention becomes your decision to forgive instead of retaliate. Right speech becomes your choice to be honest but kind. Right action becomes how you hold the door, how you speak truth, how you refuse to cause harm. Right livelihood becomes your way of serving the world, not just surviving in it. Right effort becomes your commitment to return to presence again and again. Right mindfulness becomes your practice of noticing the breath, the body, the moment. And right concentration becomes your anchor when the world spins too fast. These are not lofty ideals. They are daily invitations. In the grocery line, in the inbox, in the heartache, in the quiet joy. This is where awakening lives, not on a mountaintop, but in a Tuesday afternoon traffic jam. You stop seeking peace as a destination. You begin embodying it as a practice. You stop waiting for the world to calm down. You bring calm to the world. You stop trying to be someone. You start being fully yourself, aware, awake, alive. And in doing so, you liberate not only yourself, but those around you. Your presence reminds them what is possible. Your stillness makes space for their own. Your compassion becomes a mirror, showing them their innate goodness. This is the ripple effect of awakening. It moves through families, through teams, through cities. Not through noise, but through depth. Not through force, but through frequency. You are no longer just surviving the city. You are transforming it by transforming yourself. And this transformation doesn't require more. It only requires here, now, one breath, one choice, one moment of remembering that you are enough, that you are awareness, that you are the Buddha in the noise, in the rush, in the subway, in the silence, that you don't have to go anywhere to wake up. You just have to be here. Urban Buddha is not a name. It is a path. It is a choice. It is a return to presence again and again until your whole life becomes the temple and every moment becomes holy ground. You don't need a mountain to find peace. You don't need a perfect life to wake up. You only need this moment, this breath, this willingness to return. In the heart of the city, surrounded by movement, you can be still. In the noise, you can be free. You are not separate from the sacred, you are the sacred, living and breathing through the ordinary. You are the urban Buddha, and this is just the beginning.